I'm in southeastern British Columbia. This is the 2023 Mazda CX-50, all new. And Mazda wants us to go off-roading with this and just to do a little more. It's got a little more capability. So unfortunately, Steph can't be here, so you're stuck with me. And I'm gonna do something a little different. I'm gonna do the exterior of the car while I am outside of the car instead of doing everything inside on the driver's seat. So you can see right off the bat, it's got nice big fenders here, hard plastic so it doesn't get scratched up like the paint does. And interestingly, it's more of a squared off arch. You get your big wheels here. They're the Eagle Tourings. You can get some better off-road tires if that's what you plan on doing. Maybe not really off-roading like you would do in some other vehicles, but again, Mazda wants you to do more here. So it's a familiar look up front. You have the typical Mazda grille and the really cool shaped headlights, and the LEDs for the day runners look really, really sharp. You get a nice stretched out roof line, and it's a lower roof line as opposed to the CX-5. And the CX-5 and the CX-50 are definitely different vehicles. They're similar, but not quite the same. Around the rear, you have the nice squared off look. You get twin tailpipes as well. And I find it's a strong looking vehicle. Just has enough of those angles and arches and a bit of a, let's say, a pronounced look to it on the design side. And we'll get to the inside once I'm actually in the car. But still on the outside, I like the way it looks. I like how it stands out a little more than the CX-5 does. And Mazda had to do that. They couldn't make an identical car or something too similar and call it just the CX-50 instead of the CX-5. Now, what I really like is the panoramic sunroof. And I know it's kind of an inside-outside thing, but from the inside, it lets a ton of light in. And from the outside, it's kind of hidden a little bit because you have these nice roof rails here. Because again, Mazda wants you to go outside, do stuff, put stuff on the roof of your car, whether it's a kayak or a Thule box or some other kind of utility box. I quite like what Mazda's done with their design here. Yes, it's still a Mazda, you can tell that, but upon first glance, you'll say, well, it's a Mazda, but not the Mazda that I'm used to. So modern Mazdas are built for regular roads, primarily. Yes, the CX-9, CX-5, CX-30, CX-3 are a little higher up than their sedans, but with the CX-50 here, I find that it just has enough of a differentiator and the looks, a little more of an aggressive look. Again, the big plastic up here and along the rear wheel as well. Strong look around the rear, and I think there is a fly on the lens. I'm gonna wrap up the outside. Let's get inside, take it for a drive, talk about the interior design and what Mazda's done to help this CX-50 stand out. On the road with the 2023 CX-50, this is the top trim turbo. So it comes with a 2.5 turbo 4, and high octane gets you 256 horsepower, 320 pound-feet of torque, and regular 87 octane gets you 227 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. So there's a little bit of a difference. I would just go with 87 octane because there is such a marginal amount between the low octane and the high octane. And it's all run through a 6-speed automatic with the all-wheel drive system. A lot of my driving's been blended, so it's not only city streets like we had in Steph and mine. In our previous, I knew I was gonna mess that up, I'm gonna keep it. In our previous first drive with the CX-50 here in southeastern BC, there's a lot of logging roads, there's a lot of back roads, and it's about a 50-50 split between being on the highway and being not quite off-road, but not being on pavement. And with the all-wheel drive system, I gotta say that on those difficult roads, the CX-50 comes through with flying colors for me. I feel Steph would say the similar things. There's a lot of that planted feeling, not a lot of wheel spin at all, and the CX-50 just really holds on to the turns. And hopefully, this is what happens when I do things by myself. Hopefully, there'll be enough twists and turns that you'll see on this road that I'm on. There's a lot of them. I just hope you can see them through the camera and through the rear window. Oh, here's a good one. It just feels so planted, and oh, it feels really good. Really, really nicely done here, Mazda. Oh, it just hugs those turns, and there's a little bit of body roll. It's an SUV, it's a larger vehicle, but you know, I'm not sliding way over to the right or way over to the left in my seat. I'm fairly well planted, and yes, that's because the seats are, to me, high quality and they hold me in place. But let's go back to the driving dynamics. My one irk about the driving dynamics is sometimes between gears 2 and 3 and sometimes 3 and 4, it gets a little sluggish, and the CX-50 feels a little tired. Like, it knows it has to, it just doesn't really want to, but it's a very short-lived problem, and it jumps up maybe a second and a half, maybe 2 seconds afterward, and it goes back to going about its business quite nicely. Cruises really nicely, so 100, 105 going with the flow of traffic. Whether you're doing the work yourself or whether you've got the cruise control on, the CX-50 does a great job. It's quiet on the roads at higher speeds, which is great. And if you find it to be noisy, just crank up your audio system and that will easily take care of any road noise that bleeds in. Visibility is great, nice tall windows here. I love the panoramic sunroof. It lets so much light in, and I touched on that on the intro portion. I can't see a vehicle that I would ever own without any kind of a sunroof. Now, yes, the roof liner is white / gray. It's a light color, so having that sunroof just adds that extra little bit of openness to the cabin. And I've touched on this, I think, in every single review Steph and I have done. I love the sunroofs. I love what it does for the feeling and the aura of the cabin. On the drive mode side, it's sport, normal, and off-road. I've used the off-road a little bit on some of the, let's say, more challenging logging roads where they haven't really been used all that often compared to some of the other logging roads, and performs exactly as it should. It does it very well, very cleanly. I would live in normal. I don't think I'd ever use sport on a daily basis, but for those of you that do want it, it certainly is there for your availability. You'll see through the B-roll that the car is very dirty. I've been on the road a lot, and this is what it's meant to do. Mazda wants you to go outside and have fun and have adventures, and that's what I did. And again, it handles it really well. I never had a feeling of being stuck or wheel spin or anything. So for what I've done on city streets with Steph back home and what I've done here, I'm gonna give the CX-50 full marks for driving quality, driving comfort, and driving versatility. Let's touch on the interior. I'm not going to go too far into detail. It is a very typical Mazda as far as the layout goes. You have that screen, which is just out of reach for me. Now I set all the way back, so I wouldn't be expecting to be able to reach it or touch it or control it. You have your very tiny HVAC system, which is my favorite in the industry because Mazda has found a way to compress it and still make it more useful than any other vehicle out there. So well done. Gear shift right in the middle. You have some home buttons to control your infotainment as well as that rotary dial. Perfect system for me. I have no issues with it, and I find it very intuitive. And even if it was a touch screen for Apple CarPlay, which it's not, I'd still use the controller the same way I do with BMWs. The seats are extremely comfortable. I've done about 1,000 kilometers so far. I've got another maybe 650 left to go before this trip wraps up. And it's been long stretches of highway on British Columbia and Alberta highways, as well as the rural roads and city streets as well. So I like these seats quite a bit. They heat up real quick, and the cooled seats activate and engage really quickly as well. It's September, specifically the middle of September, so the mornings and evenings are really cold, like single digits, and the afternoons are pretty warm in the mid-20s as far as Celsius goes. So again, the heated seats go real quick. My complaint here is with the heated steering wheel. The top and bottom is not heated, it's only the sides. I get it, you want us to keep our hands on the good parts and the safe parts, but sometimes just when you're doing your hand over hand, you want that heated steering wheel aspect. Not a deal breaker at all. Cool thing, and I've mentioned it before, but I figure I'm in the vehicle now, may as well mention it again. The windshield wipers. Mazda's gone upscale, and that's Mazda's kind of MO right now. So there's windshield wiper nozzles in the arms as opposed to having the jets out of the hood or just underneath the hood. So you get that nice clean wipe all the way around, and there's 3 jets per wiper. Downside is you're going through a little more washer fluid than usual. Lots of space in the rear seat and tons of space in the trunk for what this vehicle is and the class that it's in. I've had no problem with any of my gear. Now it's just me. I've got a carry-on and a backpack. But if Steph was with me, she'd have the same thing. She'd have a backpack and a carry-on. We could easily sit it, also known as easily fit it in the trunk or even in the back seat for that matter. Top trim does come with a wireless charger just beneath my elbow here. There's some storage up front. Got your couple of cup holders. You've got to reach a little bit to get it. I'm nitpicking at this point. The dashboard is bookended with analog dials, and in the middle you have your digital screen. A couple of different options for the type of view that you want. I like it where it's just clean and the speed is at the top. Now there's also a heads-up display on this top trim, and I find it incredibly useful. Yes, you can adjust it like you can with almost every other type of heads-up display, but it just keeps my eyes in that nice straight line, keeps my eyes on the road, and it's one of the few that I actually like. That's going to wrap it up for my take on the 2023 Mazda CX-50. Yes, Steph and I did a very deep dive into it a few months ago. That video is linked below if you want to take a look at all the things regarding the CX-50. This is more of a compressed review, my take on it, on doing non-paved roads as well as highways that are not a 400 series back home. If you've got any questions, let me know in the comments, and I will do my best to get you answers as soon as possible. Thank you so much for watching. Steph and I really do appreciate the support. We'd love for you to subscribe and join our community. We're on all the social platforms. We read all the comments, good ones, bad ones, other ones, and quirky ones. And we're very happy and very appreciative that you've taken the time to engage with us. Until next time, which the next time will be Steph being in the car with me, or most likely here in the driver's seat. We'll talk to you later.